You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you.
I don't think it is very useful to speculate on what God might or might not be able to do. Rather, we should examine what he actually does with the universe we live in.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon. The most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us, woven into the threads that bind us.
Hello, beautiful people. Happy Thursday, happy Jupiter day, and happy December. It's the last month of the year, and let's see what December babies are celebrating today. The one, the only, not Pablo Escobar. We don't need to give him any more attention. Bette Midler is a Sagittarius. I freaking love Bette Midler. I love that today is her birthday. Also, Zoe Kravitz, Woody Allen, Sarah Silverman, Richard Pryor, Janelle Monáe, Deshaun Jackson, Vance Joy, Chanel Iman. Wow, a long list today. A long list of famous Sagittariuses. Or would you call that a Sagittarii? I don't know. But happy birthday to them, and happy birthday to you or anyone you know who is celebrating their solar return today. Corby's here, Nick is here, Rose is here, we have Nikki with us, and Rachel says hello to everyone. It's December. How's everyone feeling? Are we excited? Are we kind of in shock? Did it sneak up on you? I have to say also, I don't know why the date says the wrong date, as I've been putting so much emphasis on December, but that's a preview of the 2222 date that we're going to experience tomorrow. I just noticed that. So we're ahead of the game, my friends. I have to admit, I have been listening to the Anastasia soundtrack all morning. Anyone else out there, any millennials who loved the movie Anastasia? Because the song Back to December I used on social media today, and then I forgot how much of a hit that movie is. I love it. Rachel says, gotta start off December 1st with a holiday dad joke. What's an elf's favorite kind of music? Rap with the W. I love that. I love the dad joke. We're feeling the energy of Capricorn season already. It's a few weeks away, but the dad jokes are coming. I kept thinking today was Friday, Rose said. Well, we have a lot happening today in the forecast, and we're still certainly feeling the strong effects of yesterday's opposition between Venus and Mars. And I'm not going to break that down because we talked about it so much yesterday. So if you want to learn more about the Venus-Mars opposition, this happens about once every 2 years, go to my YouTube channel, find Venus opposite Mars on the playlist, the top playlist, and you can watch that video. Or I uploaded a reel to all the platforms if you want just a quick minute and a half breakdown. Corby says, feeling good. Can't believe we are literally almost close to ending the year. Yeah, it's really flown by. But today we're going to be talking about a lot of the other planets that we are feeling the energy of right now. Yes, Venus and Mars are facing off or completing each other, however you want to look at it. There's this tense opposition, but we have a lot of other planets right around that same 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 degree range that are also playing factors. So this is a great episode to listen to after the Mars opposite Venus episode. I think it's important to understand that that's like a base level of polarity that we're working with. There's a lot of tension coming up in relationships. Also balance, though. That's something that I think Katie was talking about yesterday, that feeling a lot of balance between the masculine and feminine. Okay, but let's get into what's happening today. First, though, here's a check on the current energy. The sun is in Sagittarius, the moon is in Pisces, so we're experiencing that first quarter phase still, a little bit of tension between the sun and the moon. Emotionally, we're very sensitive, but with the sun in Sagittarius, we're more outgoing and optimistic. You might be feeling a little bit like your internal emotions don't necessarily match your external expression, and that's okay. The moon will move into Aries by the end of the night tonight. So this is our last day of the Pisces moon for a month. We know the Pisces moon makes us sensitive, right? So give yourself some grace if you're feeling extra sensitive. But here's what we're feeling the most. Speaking of sensitivity, Mercury is squaring Neptune today. Now, Mercury has squared Neptune 2 other times already this year, maybe even 3 at this point. So this is a transit that we are somewhat familiar with after being together for most of the year. Most of us have been joining this community for quite a few months now. So we've talked about this before, but the main thing you need to know about Mercury squaring Neptune is that confusion and miscommunication are possible. Mercury is the planet of communication. It's the planet that rules our mindset, our intellect, how we take in information and how we put out information, right? And Mercury likes things to be detailed. Now, Mercury in Sagittarius, we'll just talk about this for a moment, removes our filter. So we aren't thinking quite as clearly or intentionally as we might normally, or speaking as intentionally as we might normally. But the square to Neptune fogs things up. It's like looking through foggy lenses, right? So it can be very confusing. And Neptune, we have to talk about the bigger picture here. Let's look at the chart. Here you go. Here's a look at the current chart. You can see that big old T-square playing out in the chart with, actually, I just realized this is yesterday's T-square, but we're still feeling this loose T-square, I will say, because Neptune is starting to square off against Venus. I mean, Neptune and Mercury are squaring specifically today, but Venus is close enough because Mercury and Venus are in this conjunction that it's almost like Neptune is forming a T-square to the Venus-Mars opposition. I say that because, you know, we really have to, when we're talking about all these planetary energies happening within that degree range I mentioned, within like 19 to 22 degrees, it's important to know that all of these planets are still affecting each other, even if the connections aren't exact. So that masculine, feminine balance and polarity we talked about yesterday, there could be a lot of confusion playing into that. Anytime Neptune squares another planet, it causes confusion in that area of our life. Now, Neptune likes to blur boundaries as well. So this could be the answer that helps us find balance between that polarity we've talked so much about. Because we're able to kind of blur these boundaries between masculine and feminine roles and find a nice point in the middle, but it's probably not going to be a comfortable process, and it might be a very confusing process, especially because coming back to the transit we're feeling most strongly today, Mercury squaring Neptune, this is like a cloudy clash of planets. You know, it's like you're battling, but you don't even really know what you're fighting for, or and I don't even see it necessarily as fighting, although Mars is squaring Neptune still, so that is kind of part of it. But it just feels like hard to put your finger on that thought or express yourself clearly. And I would say today, using a more introspective approach, because, okay, coming back. Also, just if you'll notice, I am a mercurial person and my communication feels like it's kind of all over the place. And like, I know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know if it's coming through clearly. And that's just Mercury squaring Neptune, right? It's like making it hard to communicate, right? Rachel says, really feeling that fogginess today, just trying to go with the flow, adjust when needed, leaning into some playfulness like that dad joke. I love that. I love that so much. Perfect approach. So Neptune will station direct on December 3rd, which is Saturday, right? So right now, Neptune is pretty much at a standstill in the sky because Neptune moves so slowly. It really hasn't moved anywhere. I mean, it's going at such a slow pace, getting ready to station direct. Neptune's pretty much in this pause right now from our perspective here on Earth. So we're feeling this square between Mercury and Neptune through Neptune stationing direct. Honestly, we're going to feel this this confusion. This is kind of a theme of Neptune stationing direct, the way I see it. And I think we have to kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Neptune's been retrograde for the past 4 months since it, stationed retrograde at the end of July. July 28th is when Neptune started its backspin. And through this time, we've really been reviewing our beliefs, our ideals, the illusions maybe we have been buying into. Retrogrades are these opportunities for review and adjustment and understanding the patterns behind things. So Neptune retrograde is forcing us to take a look at our beliefs, what we've been trusting maybe too easily or what we have not been trusting enough. And as Mercury squares Neptune, it's really forcing us to take a look at these things, right? To understand these things. Now, it might not fully make sense right now, and it's probably hard to articulate it to other people right now, but this is kind of forcing us to understand what's come up throughout Neptune's retrograde. And that's why I say introspection is favored, maybe doing some journaling around this, or just taking some time to process your own thoughts and emotions, even taking that, like, how have my beliefs changed? What have I been buying into? What have I been subscribing to? Trying to have these conversations with other people. Just take it from me, because I'm having a hard time even like getting my thoughts into words today. Misunderstandings are definitely possible. And even if you have the best intentions, it's like it could land the wrong way. And that's where that communication breakdown can happen with Mercury squaring Neptune. It's like other people are easily confused and deceived. We're easily deceived under this transit as well. So, if somebody's trying to get you to do something or convince you of something, take it with a grain of salt. Don't fully buy into anything today. Also, Mercury in Sagittarius, Neptune in Pisces. These are very trusting faith signs, faith-based signs. Faith-based is a weird term to use for that, but you know what I mean. So it's like, we're like, oh yeah, yes, for sure. I believe you, boundaries. Take everything with a grain of salt. Don't subscribe to anything outright today. Avoid maybe negotiating or making important decisions. I would hold off on all those things with Mercury squaring Neptune, because we're not seeing the full picture, or we have a view of the full picture. It's just a foggy view and we can't quite see through the clouds today. So it might just be brain fog. It could just be brain fog, like not being able to like fully understand things or process things. But it could also be this point where you're kind of starting to see what's foggy. That's kind of how Neptune retrograde plays into this. Like, oh, I realized that I've been trying to look through this fog this whole time. I've been being deceived. It's kind of like the covers have been pulled over my eyes this whole time. So there could be like some intense realizations that come up around this too, about how we've been confused, but just confusion. Just expect confusion. I could have just said this transit in one word and that would be confusion. Okay, but there is another factor playing out here. Okay, so taking a look back at the chart, we have, Elena says, oh my gosh, I've been really emotional yesterday and today. Is it in the astrology or just me being on my period? The moon's in Pisces. We're all more sensitive and emotional when the moon's in Pisces. And wait until we get to what is happening with the moon today, because yeah, it's definitely an emotional time with the moon. So you're not going crazy. It's not just your period. That might be a factor. That might be a factor. Let's be honest. But the moon is in Pisces. Let it out. Let it flow. Cry it out if you need to. Just let those emotions be released. Rachel says, I feel like I've been feeling this all week. I've been having a lot of tension with how I present myself with others and lots of self-doubt coming up. Again, the feeling of being a disappointment. Doubt is definitely possible too with Mercury squaring Neptune. It can bring up just that like confusion of our sense of self, especially for you, Rachel, because you have a lot of Mercury dominance in your chart. Like you're really probably feeling what's been happening with Mercury. So give yourself grace and know that we all see you as a blessing and so confident. And you are absolutely not a disappointment to anyone, especially to us. Oh, thank you, Bree. I feel like I look like a floating head. I just realized it's really dark in here because it's raining in Sacramento. It's super gloomy. And I put this dark turtleneck on and I'm just like this little This little floating head in the darkness. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so Rachel, specifically, let's look at everything playing out in the chart right now, because like I said, there's a lot happening at the same time, and we're kind of breaking down some of these aspects today. So we have that opposition, that very strong opposition. Keep in mind, Venus is opposing Mars. Mercury already opposed Mars. So we're pulling away from that opposition. The worst is behind us. Maybe it wasn't even bad, but Neptune squaring all of it. And then we also have Saturn in the mix. Okay, Saturn's at 19 degrees as well. So that trine between Mars and Saturn that we talked about, I believe at the beginning of the week is when we broke that down. That trine between Mars and Saturn has been bringing like this level of maturity, leadership, understanding, lessons, and just being more reserved in the actions we're taking as well. It can be it's a really positive transit, Mars trine Saturn. And again, this is an episode you can go back and listen to if that's something that's like, oh, I need to know more about that. But Saturn is certainly in the mix. So let's talk about how Saturn is playing a factor. Saturn at 19 degrees in Aquarius, forming a sextile to Venus, still in that trine to Mars as well. But let's talk about Venus sextile Saturn, okay? Love the turtleneck. Well, thank you. I am a huge fan of turtlenecks. I love my neck being covered. I don't know. That's just something weird about me. Wow, Bree says, I journaled for over an hour this morning. That makes so much sense with all my Aquarius. Crying isn't my strong suit. So you found another outlet, which is beautiful, Okay, Venus sextile Saturn. So Venus, of course, the planet of love, money, and beauty. We're feeling the opposition to Mars probably a little bit more than this sextile to Saturn today, just because, I mean, Venus opposite Mars, that's a pretty powerful transit, right? But Venus forming this sextile to Saturn, Venus being the planet of relationships, Venus in Sagittarius makes us really want to grow and expand in our relationships, expand financially as well, love, money, and beauty. We want to see growth in these areas with Venus in Sagittarius. But the sextile to Saturn kind of helps us taper our expectations a little bit and see our relationships, see our finances through a more practical lens. Saturn is very serious, and helps us kind of come back to reality. So it's helping us take a more practical look at these areas of our life. Venus in Sagittarius makes us more optimistic and passionate, giving us that desire to level up. But Saturn is like, how can we do this reasonably, practically, sustainably? I would say this transit, as ironic as it is, with Mercury squaring Neptune, I'm like, don't do any negotiations, don't make any decisions. But if you have to have any negotiations or decisions going on, Venus forming a sextile to Saturn can help with business dealings, help with financial dealings. We can be a little bit more bold in our negotiations, trying to achieve a greater level of success with Venus forming a sextile to Saturn. So I don't see this as like full permission to go out and make the deal today. I would still shy away from that because of what's going on with Mercury, but there could be some lessons, with Saturn being the planet of lessons, learned in love, money, and beauty under this aspect in those areas of your life, whatever that looks like for you. Of course, it's going to show up differently for everybody, but knowing that Saturn is playing a big role in this Venus-Mars opposition can be really, really helpful, just in understanding that there's almost this limiting influence coming in. Even though it's a positive influence, it could be bringing up some doubts in some ways. I've definitely been feeling that, but also help us be a little bit more practical as well. Like with the Venus-Mars opposition, it can bring up conflict. Saturn in this favorable position is like, okay, let's be mature. Let's be responsible about it, right? Maybe slow down a little bit. Saturn helps us pump the brakes. So Saturn is really helping us out, which is so funny because Saturn's usually that thorn in our side. But Saturn is really helping us out amidst the confusion, the polarity. Saturn's forming really positive aspects to Venus and Mars, so we'll take it. Nikki says, last few nights were difficult sleeping. coming down with the cold. Oh no, it was a challenging week, resting and restoring my body. Good for you. Good for you. And it's important to note too, yeah, it's really cold in Canada for winter, for sure. I know it's been snowing up there quite a bit. I think it's important to notice and to talk about too when it comes to Neptune and the Pisces moon. We have a ton of Neptune and Pisces influence today. Neptune makes us more physically sensitive too. So it's not just emotional sensitivity we're talking about, like really taking care of your health, your immunity right now, I would say is especially important because we're a little bit more susceptible physically and mentally to irritants. Yeah, that's the best way I can think to put it. Like any sort of foreign invaders or irritants, we're just really sensitive. And with Mars opposing Venus as well, it can make us a little bit more irritable in relationships. I think I said that already, but important to note. And Neptune squaring them just adds to that sensitivity, right? It's like the littlest thing can kind of like set us off with all this Neptune energy. So thanks a lot, Neptune. And that brings us to talking about the moon in Pisces. So still the first quarter moon in Pisces, taking action, moving forward, but you might be feeling confusion about how to move forward with the first quarter moon in Pisces. You might also be feeling just especially perceptive. Maybe perceptive is not the right word, but like you can feel into the subtleties of energy more easily. So even little steps probably feel like big steps moving forward. Like you're just really sensitive to, we're all really sensitive to energetic shifts right now. The Pisces moon is busy today though. Okay. So the beautiful thing about the moon in Pisces is there is this sense of trust. We have a lot of Pisces, Sagittarius, Neptune, Jupiter energy, which brings a lot of faith, trust, belief. So lean into that if you're feeling lost. Lean into that if you're feeling confused. Let your belief be your compass. However, if we are moving forward, it's almost like we're moving forward without seeing the ground we're walking on, and we just have to trust that everything's going to unfold, that there is going to be a ground beneath us. So that could be helpful today. I don't know. The moon is really, so tired these past few days. Again, the moon's in Pisces. It makes us very tired, very energetically sensitive, easily energetically drained. Okay. Now, this morning, 6 to 7 a.m. Pacific time, we woke up with the moon conjunct Neptune. So you might have been feeling especially sleepy this morning, like you just didn't really want to wake up or come out of the dream state, and squaring Mercury. So we were really like first thing this morning is when we're really feeling the effects and really sensitive to the square between Mercury and Neptune. With the moon conjunct Neptune, it just, whoa, over the top emotions, highly, highly sensitive. And the square to Mercury makes us feel the need to like express our emotions, like to put it out there. Even if we're confused about how we feel, we almost have this impulse to like share it with someone else, or we could be on the receiving end of that. And again, we're more sensitive to other people's energy when the moon is in Pisces. So boundaries, energetic boundaries, really important today. Just making sure that you're not taking on anyone else's irritation or emotion because you're probably feeling sensitive on your own, right? But if you are feeling that urge, like you need to express yourself, I would say, again, introspection is favored today. Going within and maybe journaling or meditating or just like trying to resolve any confusion or appease your emotions on your own, because trying to work it out with other people today just will likely lead to crossed wires or word vomit or things like that. Yeah, I feel that, Diane. So much on the to-do list, but so sleepy. If that is not Mercury squaring Neptune, Mercury is the to-do list. Neptune is like, but we're just tired and we just want to like check out into a fantasy and it's December, put on Anastasia and watch a movie, like that is totally the energy of the day. been getting caught up transferring my dreams from my quick jot down notebook to my journal and deciphering symbols. Crazy amount of dreams lately. That's pretty cool. And also your ruling planet, because you're a Gemini rising, is Mercury. So Mercury squaring Neptune is probably bringing through some big dramatic dreams for you. That could be the case for other people too, but especially if you're a Gemini rising or a Virgo rising, you might be feeling that sense of confusion, or like you're more comfortable in your subconscious in that like checked out dream state than you are in your rational conscious day-to-day mind, which is probably normally very strong for you if you're a Gemini rising or a Virgo rising. But the square to Neptune is like, no, pay attention to the subconscious right now. Like that's what's really coming through. Elena says, Mars is transiting over my Venus in my 7th house. Curious how you think this may play out for me. Well, Venus conjunct Mars is a really beautiful transit. And that also means that your Venus is opposing Venus as well. So I see this as being like intense attraction and desire coming up in your life, probably. Yeah, just in a lot of ways, but also kind of like this completion where your masculine and feminine are working together really beautifully. And it's like with Mars transiting over your Venus, it's helping you take action on those desires. And also you're even more attracted to the things you want because Venus is opposing Venus. So that's a little quick way that I see that. Rachel also had a reoccurring dream last night. I already know what it means. So I'm trying to coach myself like, hey, we know, we got this. Yeah, you got this. You got this. Okay, so also just waking up with the moon conjunct Neptune, dreams probably came through very strongly for a lot of us last night. It sounds like it. Now we have 2 other connections that the Pisces moon makes today. The first is 2 p.m. Pacific time. So that is 5 p.m. Eastern time. The moon is fairly quiet for the rest of the day. We don't have any, those major transits we talked about are happening later tonight at 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. Pacific time. So I think especially that sextile between Venus and Saturn will start to feel more as the day goes on, like starting to understand lessons or think more practically. Again, we don't need to go into that again, but I didn't tell you the times and they are later in the day. So the action of the forecast really starts happening later in the day. It's like the fog might begin to lift a little bit as the moon pulls away from Neptune and from that square to Mercury. And then the moon forms a sextile to Pluto. This is the transit at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And this feels like kind of leaning into the messiness, leaning into the confusion, leaning into the death and rebirth. I love that we got so many death and rebirth cards yesterday. We pulled a card for the masculine and the feminine, and both were about the death and rebirth cycle. And the Pisces moon forming this supportive angle to Pluto is helping us trust in the transformation. Lean into the messiness. Pisces energy can be very messy, foggy, confusing, and it's just like telling us trust in the unfolding, trust in taking the next step and knowing that the transformation that's supposed to happen is going to happen. So I see a lot of trust and empowerment this afternoon in just embracing the unknown, embracing the fogginess, embracing that we're not going to have it all figured out right now, but we have to move forward anyway. And then the high point of the day is a conjunction between the moon and Jupiter at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So this really feels like a surge of optimism, and I'm here for it. I am here for it. Let me jump ahead so you can see the moon meeting up with Jupiter here. So this will be at 28 degrees in Pisces, and the moon meeting up with Jupiter just makes us feel good, right? Like even on a day when confusion is inevitable, when we're feeling a lot of doubt, when we're feeling like, what are we doing? Where are we going? Jupiter is like, we got this. Just like Rachel was saying, like coaching yourself through it. Like, I got this. I got this. It's like easy to trust in the best possible outcome, see the silver linings later in the day. This feels like hope. This feels like hope. The moon and Jupiter conjunct in Pisces is just like, we don't know what's going to happen next, but being in the energy of hope, being in the energy of like trusting that it's going to be something good, right? That feels like this conjunction between the moon and Jupiter. So certainly ending on a high note, even amidst all the confusion. It's like being in the middle of a foggy cloud and being like, well, I don't know where this cloud's going to carry me right now, but I am hopeful that it's going to be a magical, beautiful place, right? And then the moon is void from about 6 to 8:30 p.m. So it's a void Pisces moon. Just give it a rest tonight. Just take a rest. The moon moves into Aries at 8:41 p.m. Pacific time, so right before midnight for those of you on the East Coast, early tomorrow morning if you're farther east than that. And the energy is building. It's going to be the waxing gibbous moon in Aries. So that creates momentum in itself. We're working towards next week's full moon in Gemini. So the waxing gibbous moon in Aries brings this surge of fresh energy, and like, we got to keep going. We got to pick up the momentum. It's just like, keep moving forward. The waxing gibbous moon in Aries is that voice that's like, we've got the energy. Just keep moving forward. We're going to end the week on a high note with the moon in Aries. Expect to feel more momentum. The Pisces moon makes us more energetically sensitive, a little bit more sleepy, as so many of you have talked about. Expect more external, outgoing, extroverted energy with the moon in Aries, or just more energy in general to do things. Aries moon, the vibe of the Aries moon makes us want to do stuff. So expect that over the next couple days. And the Aries moon is going to make a lot of positive connections to planets like Mars in Gemini, to Saturn in Aquarius. And it's not going to make any oppositions. I don't think it's really going to make any squares other than to Pluto and Lilith. So that might be a little intense, but other than that, it's going to feel really a lot lighter and more positive, I think, to end the week. So that's something we have to look forward to. Okay, that's today's forecast. A lot of confusion, trying to make sense of the polarity we're feeling between Venus and Mars, but just don't try to make sense of it today. Just be in the mess. Be in the flow, let it unfold, trust it's all happening for a reason. And that brings us back to today's affirmation, which is, I hope. Such a simple affirmation, but hope is one of the most powerful tools we can rely on. You know, having the ability to be hopeful can help us go through some of the most confusing, darkest emotions, right? Like, just being able to be like, I hope that what comes next is beautiful, rather than like, I hope it's not bad, right? Like, I hope it's amazing. I hope it's positive. And I see the future, and I'm hopeful because I know that something good is coming. So we always have hope to lean back on, even in the darkest times, even in the most confusing times. And I hope that today's affirmation resonates for you. We're going to end with a card pull from the Starseed Oracle today. This is my go-to Neptune Pisces deck. I think it's just the color. It's that light blue color that I'm just like, that is so Pisces to me. And we'll see if we can get any clarity. I mean, who knows? Maybe we're not supposed to have clarity today. We probably aren't, based on what's going on in the forecast, but we'll see what needs to come through. And as always, this is your time to share any final insights, ask any other questions about what's going on with you, share any intentions. I love that you all show up here every day and are so authentic and vulnerable. It's just really beautiful to witness all of you in your own becoming. And, you know, reflecting on today's affirmation of I hope. It's been a year now since I started this live stream, and it really feels like we're coming into the end of the first year because I started so late in the year last year. And I have a lot of hope for this community and where we're all going individually and where we're all going collectively as well. And it's December. I feel like December is just a very hopeful time, being hopeful for the holidays, being hopeful for the year ahead. So really, like, holding on to that hope, not just today, but through the end of the year, I think could be really helpful for me, definitely. But I hope it's helpful for you too. Now I'm just like being total dad joke, like Rachel was saying, like, I hope this. Anyway, I'll stop. Okay, let's all take a deep breath. One moment. I went to a mentorship group yesterday at the Spiritual Shop. I love this for you, Rachel. Learned so much, like shielding, and really excited to see where it all leads. Perfect for a Pisces moon too. It really makes me feel that hope. Community is one of our, it is they just did a study. I think I might have mentioned this, a Harvard study, that community is the biggest indicator for happiness. So finding a community, of course, we're a community here together, and I hope that that contributes to your happiness. But finding people who get you and understand you is one of the most powerful things that you can do, I'm learning, in this lifetime. So I love this for you. Diane says, we put our tree up yesterday, and since it's been such a hard year, I'm actually making small boxes and putting intentions inside of what I'm planning to manifest, putting beneath the tree. I love this. I might have to steal this idea. What a powerful way to manifest throughout the season for the new year, to incorporate it into this tradition that most of us already observe with the Christmas tree. That is brilliant, Diane. That's brilliant. Okay, let's all take a nice deep breath together, the deepest breath you've taken all day, and then send our energy into the deck to see what message needs to come through. Here we go. Nice and deep. Breathe in. And exhale. What do we need to know? Called. Another card I've never pulled before. I've been getting a lot of those lately. Called. Soul gifts and training. It's time to step up. If this doesn't feel like the first quarter moon in Pisces, I don't know what does. Okay. Let's see. How fun. We get to read a new card together today. You came to Earth with a double mission, to grow as a soul and to bring about a shift in consciousness. The best way to fulfill these personal and collective purposes is to trust that what it is that your soul is calling you toward, for it's encoded within the most direct path forward. Your soul has many unique gifts that it came here to share. Some of you may already be aware of, others you're just beginning to uncover. You're being called to remember that your soul intelligently chose the perfect conditions to carry out your soul's mission and share your soul's gifts. If you're being called toward a creative project, a passion, or an adventure, this card is your confirmation that you're facing the right way and that this moment right here is destined. If you're feeling underprepared or thinking, who am I to do that? This card is guiding you to step up and leap. And consider perhaps what your soul has been training for this moment right here for lifetimes. Your soul has been training for this moment right here for lifetimes. This feels like an especially potent card amid the confusion of the day. There was so much talk about trust and the most direct path forward being our soul's mission. And it feels like we're kind of, even this, it's like she's walking through this like confusing portal. Where is she even? Or even like almost like a cloud or a galaxy. And you might feel like you're walking through, you're like, where am I right now? Who am I to do this? But just taking that next step and trusting is key. It is key to fulfilling our soul's mission, trusting that the universe is supporting us, trusting that we'll figure it out as we go, right? And this card came with an activation. So I'm going to share the activation too. Place the card on the portal of your heart and whisper the following. I won't whisper so you can hear me. I call forth the soul gifts and soul training that I've received throughout all of my lifetimes. I am ready to embody them all now without hesitation or fear. I fully commit to being here now. I'm ready to step into my soul's highest and most potent calling. I have been training for this for lifetimes. Beautiful, beautiful message for today. Yeah, Diane, that card. Absolutely. You are being called. You have so many gifts to share. It's time to step up and share them, even and trust that they're going to be received and that the people they're meant for will find them. So much beauty in that card. I love this. The only positive way we could turn the chaos, mess, remodeling happening in our home into a unique way to celebrate the holidays. Improvising, adapting, finding a new tradition in the process, trusting, you probably wouldn't have decided to do that, or you might not have decided to do that if it wasn't for this chaos, this mess that you're in right now, so there can be beauty in the mess. And Diane's story is a great example of that. Wow. Rachel says, this is the 5th time I heard the words, take a leap, learning to take that leap and trust myself. And the Aries moon coming in the next couple of days is like, just do it. Just take the leap. Just do it. We believe in you. We have faith in you. Trust that it's all going to unfold beautifully. All you got to do is take that next step. And that's what this card is reminding us to do today. And Nick's classic, just got to go with the flow, keep soldiering on, keep on trucking. Yeah, there's beauty in the flow. Absolutely. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for this episode of Transits Today. I hope that it found you well. If you're new here, welcome. We love to see you in the chat. Please go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel so we can keep these videos coming to you for free every weekday. And if you are already part of our community, I'm so grateful for you. I am so grateful that you took the time to show up for yourself today, that you continue to show up for this community today and every day. And I believe in you, and I trust that you are here for a reason, and we're all here to witness each other and help push each other along on our soul missions and give each other the strength and the guidance and the encouragement that we might need on days when, like today, it's a little confusing, it's a little messy. You got this. You got this. I love you all. I will see you right back here tomorrow to talk through the weekend and Neptune stationing direct. Hallelujah. So I'll see you then. But until I see you next, stay curious. Thank you so much for joining us and aligning with the energy of the universe today. If you enjoyed this morning's episode of Transits Today, you can join our live astrology discussion every weekday morning right here wherever you're watching. And head to thespiritualjournalist.com to read your daily astrology forecast and browse the Spiritual Shop. The most fun way to help keep these forecasts free and support more content like this is to buy yourself a little something on our website. But if you're feeling extra generous, you can also buy me a coffee to fuel future live streams. Just tap the link in the description or head to buymeacoffee.com and search The Spiritual Journalist. And speaking of, you can also tune in to The Spiritual Journalist, our weekly live interview where we ask our guests questions about everything from crystals and manifestation to mental health and the environment. Those conversations stream live right here wherever you're watching now every Tuesday. I'm so grateful you found us here, and I can't wait for our next conversation.